You wake up one morning and realize you haven't had a real conversation in 3 days. Not a text, not a quick exchange at a coffee shop, an actual conversation where someone looked at you, heard you, responded to times you. And the strange part? You almost didn't notice. You told yourself you were fine, maybe even relieved. No demands, no small talk, just you, your space, your silence. It felt like rest. But somewhere around day 4, something shifts. You can't explain it exactly. The quiet starts to feel different, heavier. The walls don't feel peaceful anymore. They feel closer. What's happening to you? And why does your brain respond to isolation the way it does, not just emotionally, but physically, neurologically, at a level so deep it predates language itself? Because here's the thing most people don't realize. Isolation doesn't just affect how you times feel. It changes how your brain times works. Let's clear something up first, because this matters. There's a difference between solitude and isolation. Solitude is a choice. It's the quiet you seek after a long week. It restores you. It has edges you can leave it when you're ready. Isolation is different. Isolation is when the quiet isn't chosen, or when it stretches past the point where it still feels safe. It's solitude with the exit door removed. Most people confuse the two. They assume being alone is always neutral, always harmless, that if you're not crying or visibly struggling, you're fine. But your brain doesn't operate on what you consciously decide is fine. It operates on signals. And when those signals go quiet for too long, when the social input stops, something very old inside you starts to wake up. Here's the part that surprises people. Your brain was never designed to function alone. From the moment you were born, your nervous system was built around connection. The sound of another person's voice, eye contact, the rhythm of someone breathing nearby. These aren't luxuries your brain enjoys. They're inputs it times requires, times the way a plant requires light. Not because you're weak, because you're human. Your nervous system has a mode called the social engagement system. It's the part of you that co-regulates with other people, meaning your calm borrows from their calm. Your nervous system reads the people around you to understand whether the environment is safe. When those people disappear, your system doesn't simply go quiet. It starts scanning, waiting, wondering why the signals stopped. And that's when the chemistry changes. Dopamine, the brain's reward signal, responds strongly to social connection. A genuine interaction, a moment of being truly heard, even shared laughter. These all trigger small releases that tell your brain, this matters, this is good, keep going. When isolation sets in, those signals thin out. The brain doesn't just feel less rewarded, it starts interpreting the environment as something has gone wrong. At the same time, cortisol, your primary stress hormone, begins to rise. Not dramatically at first, just quietly, like a low hum in the background. Your body is doing what it was built to do, sensing that something is missing and treating that absence as a potential threat. This isn't anxiety, not yet. It's your biology being exactly what evolution shaped it to be. Think about where humans came from. For nearly all of human history, your ancestors lived in tribes. Tight clusters of people who ate together, slept near each other, watched each other's children, tracked each other's moods. Isolation, in that world, didn't mean a quiet weekend. It meant danger. To be separated from your group was to be vulnerable to predators, to starvation, to cold. The brain learned deeply, over hundreds of thousands of years, that being alone was a warning signal. That connection meant safety. That separation meant times something is wrong. That learning is still inside you. It didn't disappear when you got an apartment and a Wi-Fi connection. So when isolation stretches on, your brain doesn't think, peaceful rest. It thinks, where is everyone? Why am I alone? What does this mean? And this is where it gets interesting. Because the psychological effects of isolation don't announce themselves clearly. They don't arrive as a single dramatic symptom. They seep in, quietly, gradually. First comes the overthinking. When there are no people to talk to, no external perspectives to check your thoughts against, the mind starts feeding on itself. Ideas become loops. Worries become evidence. Small doubts expand into certainties because there's no one to gently interrupt them and say, "Times I don't think that's quite right." Then comes something subtler, emotional distortion. Not instability exactly, but a kind of drift. Without the constant, ordinary feedback of human interaction, a smile, a confused look, someone laughing at the right moment, you lose calibration. You start to misread yourself. Feelings become harder to name. Proportions feel off. Something small can suddenly feel devastating, and you won't entirely know why. This isn't weakness. This is a brain doing exactly what a brain does when it's deprived of the inputs it needs to maintain balance. Deep inside your brain, two structures are having a conversation that you're not entirely aware of. The limbic system, ancient, emotional, reactive, is the part of you that feels. It processes threat. It generates fear and longing and the low hum of unease that you might describe as times something just feels off. The prefrontal cortex is the part that thinks, that reasons, plans, holds perspective, tells the limbic system to calm down. It's just an email, it's fine. Under normal conditions, these two regions balance each other. But prolonged isolation disrupts that balance. The prefrontal cortex, the calmer, more rational voice, starts to quiet. And the limbic system, unchecked, gets louder. Threat perception increases. Small things feel larger. The world starts to feel less safe, less readable, less manageable. This is why people who have experienced significant isolation often describe something they struggle to articulate, a sense that reality itself has shifted slightly, that they've lost their footing somewhere without knowing exactly when. Research has shown that loneliness carries measurable health risks affecting sleep, immune function, and cardiovascular health, with some findings suggesting its physical impact rivals well-known lifestyle risks. Neuroscientist John Cacioppo spent decades studying social isolation and found that loneliness reshapes how the brain processes the social world. Isolated individuals begin to perceive more threat in neutral faces. They read ambiguity as hostility. The brain, trained by absence, starts to expect rejection. The long-term picture is sobering. Chronic isolation is connected to anxiety, depression, and accelerated cognitive decline. Not because lonely people are flawed, but because the brain, deprived of the interaction it evolved to need, begins to change. Neural pathways associated with trust and connection thin. Pathways associated with threat detection strengthen. You don't just feel more alone, you start to think more alone. And here's the quiet tragedy in that. Isolation can make connection feel harder, not easier, over time. The very thing you need becomes the thing that feels most difficult to reach for. There is something almost unbearable in that, and also something deeply, profoundly human. Because here's what all of this means at its core. You were never supposed to do this alone. Not any of it. Not the daily weight of being a person. Not the uncertainty, the grief, the confusion, the small moments that need witnessing to feel real. Humans were built neurologically, evolutionarily, at every measurable level for each other. When isolation hurts, it's not a sign that you're weak or too needy or too attached. It's a sign that everything inside you is working exactly as it should. Your brain misses what it was made for. That ache you feel when the silence goes on too long isn't a flaw. It's proof of something. Proof that connection matters to you, that you're wired for presence. That some part of you, the oldest, most essential part, still knows what it needs. And that part of you has always known.